A little while ago, I finished watching the show Vikings, and it ended up being one of my favorite shows of all time, but I was also left with quite a few questions about some specific things that happened, and today we are going to be answering them because I took a little bit of a deep dive, and excuse me, have a couple notes on my other monitor over here, but we're going to answer these questions for you today. Maybe you can have a little bit of clarity like I have. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with many YouTube channels. Like I said, guys, we're going to be going through the unanswered questions of Vikings. The first question that I had was about Ragnar before he ended up dying. Did Ragnar end up believing in Christ before he died? Because it seemed like he was super wishy-washy, but when I actually looked into it, Ragnar's beliefs were deliberately left ambiguous, and a lot of people, and myself included, that's part of the reason why it made his character so interesting, because he was questioning things, especially like the way that he went out and, you know, talking about Valhalla, everything, being proud of like conquering the seer. When he was burying Athelstan, like the picture over here, he was talking about both gods existing. So he ended up respecting Christianity, especially after bonding with Athelstan. And I should have mentioned earlier, big spoiler, okay? Regardless. And he seemed to admire the sacrifice of Christ, but he never ended up fully committing to the faith. Ragnar at the end likely didn't actually convert. He also was, you know, manipulating King Egbert a little bit, talking about God, but he questioned the gods constantly. His final words leaned towards the Norse beliefs. His final words leaned towards Valhalla, but there was real doubt on him, and that was supposedly intentional by the show. I thought that there would be a solid answer, and this is going to be like a kind of theme, which actually makes Vikings really interesting. I thought there were actual like answers to these types of questions, but unfortunately they were left, you know, to the viewer to wonder about. And this is why I love the show, man. The second question I had is, did Ivor actually turn into a good person? Because Hitsberg ended up talking to Ivor and saying, you changed, Ivor, back in season 6. And you could actually see some like genuine compassion in Ivor. You could see some genuine compassion with him and the prince. Like, it was really nice. It was really wholesome to see. So we all know Ivor, especially once, I mean, not like earliest on Ivor, but he was ruthless, violent, power hungry. He killed people close to him, and it was very difficult to watch, and he was ruling without fear, and everybody, I'm sure everybody could relate to like watching him like, whoo, there is no redeeming yourself here. And I can't believe that I ended up liking this guy at the end. I can't believe it, because he did some unspeakable things. So when we ended up getting to the arc with the Rus, excuse me, I almost pulled out my microphone over there. Once we ended up getting to that entire arc with the Rus and Wessex, he started to show a little bit more emotional depth. He started to show a little bit more empathy, and honestly, mostly between the prince, Kadia, and his brother Hitsberg. Did I say his brother or the prince? Regardless, you get my point. Those three people. The compassion that we've seen throughout all of that was something that we never really seen in Ivor, and maybe he actually did change a little bit. So with his final moments, he ended up sacrificing himself. He showed genuine growth. He showed fear. And he even said to Hitsberg, don't be afraid, this is the right ending. Maybe he knows what was coming to him. Maybe he knows what kind of person that he was. So throughout the story, it is evident that Ivor ended up changing a lot. He goes through a lot, but he also never exactly became a good person. But he does go from selfish to selfless in some moments, which is a big characteristic change in Ivor. So he started to grow, but he didn't exactly complete that transformation, and I thought that was an excellent change to Ivor's story. So, continuing on. One thing, and this is what I talked about in my review, because I had no idea what to think of it, okay? And I'll have to go over my notes for this one, because I'm going to tell you exactly what it says, because I'm not going to remember any of it, okay? Was Kadia actually Freydis? I had no clue what to think this entire storyline, dude. I had no idea what to think, okay? So, this is straight from Vikings, okay? No, it wasn't really his wife, but the show makes it deliberately confusing to the viewers. In the Rus's storyline, Ivor meets Katia, who looks identical to Freydis, the woman he loved and killed in an earlier season. The actress plays both characters, which adds to the mystery. And I even had doubts about that, because it was a little while between the seasons when I watched him, okay? Kadia said in the show that she's not Freydis, but the resemblance causes Ivor to believe in the reincarnation or divine fate. So narratively, no, it's not Freydis, but it's meant to feel like it is. Thematically, she represents redemption for Ivor, someone he once destroyed, now giving him a chance to be different. How cool is that, dude? How cool is that? I love this show so much, and it sucks because I didn't see it at the time watching this show, but I was like, oh, okay. Because that entire time, whenever I was seeing her, I was just like, dude, is this actually Ivor's wife? Did she like not die or something? Or did she get resurrected? But do people get resurrected in this show? I don't know. So that was probably my biggest question throughout the entire show, but I'm glad we got a little bit of clarity and there's like actual legitimate clarity for that one, okay? Let's talk about my next question. Was Bejorn actually Rollo's son? I didn't like this. I didn't like that Ragnar ended up cheating with Rollo. So the show ends up actually hinting at it heavily, but it was never confirmed either way. Rollo, of course, we all know, ended up telling Ragnar that Bejorn is not Ragnar's son. Ragnar herself never confirms or denies it. Now, Bejorn, and this is what he ended up saying to Rollo, he looks and acts more like Ragnar, and Ragnar treated Bejorn as his own. But Rollo, and of course we all know this, that Rollo and Ragnar were involved with each other, and at the time that Bejorn was conceived, she was also with Rollo. But the show, again, leaves it up to the viewer to just think about on purpose, because the show implies that Rollo may be Bjorn's biological father, but it really, really is, by looking at Bejorn, it really kind of shows that Ragnar was probably the biological father, you know? It's possible, but unlikely, I will say. So, let's continue on. This one was a little bit like I had an idea, okay, but I still had a little bit of, I thought it was a little bit strange, okay? And you'll have to excuse me because I'll have to refer over my other monitor for this one as well, because there is a specific answer to this question. Why did Athelstan appear to Alfred? I don't know why. I just was thinking about it. I was like, I don't know. I had questions about it. Maybe there was something that I was missing. So, Athelstan appears to Alfred as a spiritual vision, a moment of emotional or divine clarity. Alfred is overwhelmed by doubt and pressure when he sees Athelstan, the man of faith and peace. And of course, in case it skipped your memory, Athelstan is the biological father of Alfred. It's less about literal resurrection and more about Alfred connecting with his spiritual legacy. Think of it as a symbolic visitation showing Alfred is walking the same path that Athelstan once did, torn between faith, kingship, and morality. It's a very interesting take. And that's another thing that I love about this show and what it does, guys, is it really, really makes you think about the afterlife, what's kind of right, and then it makes you like question ideas just like Ragnar. But there was one thing that I was also confused about talking about this, and you'll have to excuse the quality of the image I ended up grabbing here, because I talked about this in my review and I was like, what the hell does this mean? What was the significance of Floki's cave vision? Because where my face cam is blocking it right now, as you can see to the right, Floki ended up seeing a cross and then he like blew up. So I was like, did this confirm in the show? Because one of the questions that I had throughout watching this show was there a correct belief to believe in? Was Valhalla, Norse mythology, what was correct in the show? Or was it Christianity? Or was it, I know they ended up diving into some Muslim beliefs too. What was correct when it came to the show? But what I didn't know until I was done watching it is it's just about the time period, all of them coming together, all these different religions coming together, and nobody actually knowing what's right. But then I was sitting back and thinking, okay, well, we saw like visions of Valhalla, but then again, we also saw like Christ appear to Athelstan, things like that. So what this was is he actually did see a cross. It was intentional. It wasn't somebody just like putting a cross there for Floki. So the cross for Floki represented that Christianity has already reached that place that he was at, or their gods, the ones that Floki believed in, were not the only gods out there. It was a metaphor for the unstoppable rise of Christianity, even in the lands where Floki was only seeing on purpose. He was only looking for his own gods, but then he ended up bumping into another one, suggesting that there was more out there and suggesting that the rise of Christianity to come is unstoppable. That was the significance of Floki seeing that, and he actually did end up seeing a cross, because I was questioning it, and I was watching it and going, he saw a cross. Is that going to like turn Floki or anything like that, right? But there was probably a bigger question, more so than the Freitas arc. Who the hell was Harboard? This whole thing was incredibly confusing, and this we have a direct answer to as well, okay? So, of course, and this is what Floki ended up recognizing, that was Harboard was, widely believed to be Odin in disguise. Ragnar, again, questioned this, and I didn't know what to think about it either, right? So, in Norse mythology, Harboard is one of Odin's many names. He comes and goes mysteriously, speaks in riddles, seduces women, and brings in both healing and chaos. He's seen comforting Ivor, he's seen seducing Aslug, like a wandering god showing destiny and destruction. He represents the divine walking among mortals, interfering in subtle, untraceable ways. His true purpose is never fully explained, which fits Odin's mythic nature. So it seems like it, and this, of course, it's left up to debate, right? But it seems like he actually was Odin, but this is something that the Viking culture ended up believing in, like the gods end up walking among us, and it seemed to be Odin, but it was never actually confirmed. He just did what he did, and he ended up taking off. Look what he birthed. He started Ivar's whole journey by fixing things, ruined Ragnar's relationship. Odin, what are you doing, man? But I thought that was very, very interesting to get into. So there was one more question that I had, and I had this idea, and this confused me the entire thing, okay? Who the hell was Ube's traveler? And I have another picture over here specifically about him because, again, like the picture's a little bit low quality over here. This dude was with Ube the entire time, and Ube was like, I'm getting sick of your lies. Why is this guy continuously lying to me? And he kept making up, or I don't know if they were made up. He kept making up stories. He kept saying, like, I am Athelstan. Like, I didn't understand any of it. And you know what? He found the land. He found this land, but then he ended up, like, being right at the end. I don't know. Like, it was so weird. Supposedly, this guy is a mirror of Athelstan but twisted, and it was to test Ube's faith and show how far the world ended up coming with the old days with Ragnar, Athelstan, and Floki. But he was a character that's not meant to be looked like incredibly in depth to. They just kept talking about this like this was some big grand secret, and I was like, okay, what is it? And I didn't know. So this one is the one that we ended up looking a little bit too much into, but for the show Vikings, those are the questions that I ended up having. If you want to continue talking about Vikings, then why don't you check out my season finale review? You can check it out right here, last season review. Messing up the outro here. I would love to have you guys over there. Thank you very much for watching the video. Take care, everybody.